I just love all of everything that's going on, all of the grungy, all of the peeking through of the paper, like this little thing with a 7 and a 22. I love all of those little details that you can just get lost in. This video is going to be a little different because I'm going to hang out with you. So instead of doing a voiceover, today we are going to kind of get hands-on together, and I'm going to show you this kit. Somewhere in the middle, I'll put timestamps down below, so if you want to jump into it, you can watch the full flip through of and my explanation of these two kits. I have one that's going to be available on Etsy and the other one for Patreon. And so I figured this would be a really great time to talk about fussy cutting and to give you some of the tricks and tips that I've come across through the years. So I'm going to start off by talking about scissors. Now, this is kind of a controversial take because there's people that only want to use little tiny scissors or embroidery scissors. They some love spring loaded scissors, which are really good for your hands. Something like this, which is what I use mostly. You guys have probably seen these scissors. This is my second pair because I love them. I broke one pair, but they work really great. And I'm going to show you how you can take, and I'm going to try to see if I can find a pair of regular scissors, but I want to show you how you can fussy cut using any type of scissors. It doesn't have to be a special scissor. Now, if you have something that's smaller, like you have something like this and you like that because it's very small. I mean, you can already see the difference in the blades here. And so if you have something that's smaller and that's what you want to work with, by all means. But I want to show you that you don't need anything really special and you can start doing it today. And I'm going to show you ways that we're going to get around having a lot of paint on our hands and getting through like little tiny crevices. So fussy cutting is the technique that shows you how to, or how you would cut out a specific image, a motif, pattern paper, fabric, printables, which I'm showing you today. And instead of using the whole sheet, we are just going to use pieces of it. So for example, we're going to go ahead and start with something like this. We're going to start with the square, which is obviously the easiest way. And a lot of times, and I talk about this when I'm flipping through the digitals, a lot of times with my digitals, I really try to make everything so that it is squared off. And I'm going to show you using a paper cutter. So I'm just going to take my paper cutter here and I'm going to go ahead and choose my image. Since these are squares, I'm going to be able to do those with the paper cutter. For something like these, I'm going to need to do those by hand. So I'm going to try to line that up. Usually what I try to do is I line it up and I make a cut just to see if I am good, which in this case I am. I am right on the line, which almost never happens for me. And then I'm just gonna cut down. Now, I did mess it up, see, because, oh, I could see I had it tilted just a little bit. So I cut off a little piece of this. You wanna be mindful not to do that. So I'm gonna take the second one. And on some of these, I don't know if you can really pick that up, but there's a tiny bit of white. What I like to do is once I cut these out kind of in bulk, then I'll go back in and I will fix that white. And then I have some squares here. And you can see here when I'm cutting it out, I'm a little bit of the image is there, and it's okay. I think with just like everything else, my motto is, you know, it's better for you to go and play and, you know, get something fun out of this instead of worrying about perfection. Perfection is what kills our creativity a lot of times. And then this one had a little bit of white, so I'm just going to go in, and then I can keep cutting or I can leave it in place. And then once you start cutting these out, they'll get easier and easier. And even you can see even the smaller ones are not that hard. I'm going to actually cut everything out and then I will organize it, which we'll do together. And so what I'm going to do is I have this little acrylic bin that has some wax papers in it. And so I'm just going to put this behind me. And then I can just place all of my pieces right in here, and that way it keeps them together. Now, another thing you can do is if you've cut it out like this, you can then finish it off by using your scissors. And your scissors are going to give you a closer, I was going to say a close shave. But if you're someone that likes to ink up with the distress inks, then you don't have to be too careful here because the white edge will get covered up with the ink. The other thing I like to have, and you can't see because it's beneath me, but I like to have a bowl where I can put all of my little scrap pieces of garbage. And so you can keep that up on your desk or you can have it down below. I like to keep it underneath me because then I can just like toss it to my side. We have these, which we're obviously not going to be able to do with the cutter. Now you could do some of it because some of it is straight edges. So if I wanted to line this up, like that, but because these are vintage images, they're not going to be straight lines. It's not going to be perfect, so it's not really meant to be cut like this. But what I do like to do is take off some of the excess. Actually, let's start with the bottom. And I would call this a rough cut. So you're rough cutting. So here what I'll do is probably just take that and cut it out, and I have some white. I like to open my scissors up all of the way, and I like to place it so I'm looking down on the barrel like this. Hold on, I don't know if this is good. And then that shows me kind of where this edge is going to lay, and I try to do it in one cut. Like that. And then here I have some little curves, and so my biggest trick and what really changed the fussy cutting game for me is when I started doing it like this. Normally, the way that maybe I was taught in grade school was to cut, right? But you don't want to move your scissors, and that's what adds to more fatigue of your hands. So you want to, your scissors are just kind of doing this motion. And instead, you're taking your paper and you are moving your paper around. And so I'm going to show you right here. If you look very carefully, you have little edges here. So I'm going to follow those edges. So I'm going to start here because it's kind of rounded. And you see I am moving the paper, and then I'm moving the paper. And then with my straight edges, I'm just cutting across. And there you go. And you can be as detailed or not. So on this one, you can see that I have my little edges. And maybe if I lay it here, you can see where it divots here. But on this one, I'm going to cut this one out. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just do straight lines. So if you have problems with mobility, or your hands cramp up, or maybe you don't have a ton of time, this is another option for you. Another thing I like to do sometimes is hold my scissors like this. Normally, I would hold my scissors like this. I find that sometimes when I put both fingers in here, it cramps. And so sometimes I'll keep my middle finger in here, and then my pointer is kind of to balance it, kind of like chopsticks, even though I can't hold chopsticks correctly. Okay, let's get rid of a little bit of the mess here. And you're going to see that they are pretty similar. You can definitely tell that you don't have the divots here, but it's not going to make that much of a difference. So let's look at them if I had them layered here. It gives it a little more personality. It gives it more detail, but it's not pertinent, and it's not going to take away from the design. I'm going to finish cutting these out, and then we're going to move to stuff that's more intricate. That's another tip, is that I like to start off with my bulk cutting first. So the things that are squares, that are going to be easier cuts, and I like to kind of get those out of the way, and then I can go in and fussy cut. So here we have a lot of white space. So if you wanted to, you could take it all off. But because for me, these are kind of, we do have a rounded line up here, but for the most part, it's straight lines. So I'm just going to do that. I really find that if you can put your paper at the end of your scissors, you get a lot of movement in one cut instead of having to cut like this. Once you have mastered something like this where it's a little bit easier, then you can move on to smaller things. So in this case, I'm going to do this. And what I would do here for sure is take off all of that white space. That just makes everything a little easier. And I look at this as like the step process. You start with your squares that are easy. Then you go to bigger items, or smaller items, I mean, that are shapes and that are a little bit harder, and then you move on to a little bit harder, and that helps it. Another thing we didn't talk about is the white space. So If you notice, if you get stickers, a lot of times they will have a white space around them. So you could do the same thing, and this one automatically had a little bit of space here. So I'm going to try to eyeball what that is here, and I'm going to try to replicate it all the way around, although sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes I go thicker and thinner, and you can always fix it once you're done. So I noticed that I got a little thick down here, so I can take that off. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell here, maybe on my hand, you can see the white line around it. This is a nice look too, and I think that it works really nicely to have. It looks like it's you know, a sticker, or that it is an ephemera piece, because a lot of ephemera does come like that. So whenever I have things like this where they're items that are freestanding, so like here or any of these, I do tend to leave some space around it. That way, if you want to allow some of that white in, you can do the same thing. You can leave the white border around it. Now on this one, and remember we were talking about like these little crevices, you would do the same thing. So you're moving your paper around and you're getting those crevices here. And that takes up your fussy cutting another notch. You can kind of see there the difference. Do I have the little one? Oh, I guess I didn't cut that one out yet, but you can definitely see the little notches. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't tell anyone. It's just between me and you. That is, I cheat all the time with fussy cutting. And I'm going to show you that later when we get into more intricate stuff. But I'm going to show you this one. I'm not going to be very careful with it. I am not making the lines be exactly the same. And there we have it. And you can see there's not that much difference in these. This one has the little crevices. This one does not. You can see here that I started off with less white, more white, more white, less white, less white, more white. It's okay. You can totally cheat. This is the one time that I would say that I definitely condone cheating. I'm really excited today to show you a new kit that is finally coming out on Etsy. I know that you guys have not seen kits from me for a while other than on Patreon, and so I'm going to share with you today the kit as well as the Patreon kit that's coming out, and it's going to be available now. Once I post this video, I will have a QR code, and if you don't know what a QR code is, you can see it here on the screen on the left hand side. And what you do is you take your phone and you just open your camera app and you point it to the little code that you see here, and then it'll automatically pop up a little pop-up will come up in yellow, and it'll say like it'll have a website, and you click on it and it'll take you to that. If you can't work that, or if you are on your phone or iPad and you can't get it, then I will have it linked down in the description. So, okay, now that that's out of the way, I'm really excited about this one. It's really grungy and I don't know, kind of industrial, utilitarian. And if you know me at all, you know that I don't do Halloween, and I know it's kind of a hot take, but I never have since I was little. Story for another day. But anyways, I wanted to do something that really was inviting of harvest and autumn and the time of year as the leaves are changing, and it's it's kind of an outlook for the year coming ahead and of being hopeful of what is to come. And so I'm really excited about this one. This is a vintage wallpaper that I have then manipulated and distressed. This it's checkerboard pattern, and it's watercolored little squares that I drew out. This one is stars, but it also has some faint writing in the back, also some distressing. This is really probably my most distress kit, I guess I would say. And then here is the same print, except this one is in kind of an army green. This is some script on with also some other script behind it. It's a lot of like layers and grunginess, and I was really thinking about these papers as far as layering. I'm really excited and I can't wait to start using them with you. This one is stripes because stripes are always in, and it's got some faint, you can kind of see some writing, some distressing, and this one comes in blue as well. This is kind of a purple and red color of numbers. I love anything. Yeah, I've told you guys this before, anything to do with school or supplies, and I love numbers. I think that they work really great as backgrounds, as for the forefront, the background, side pieces. Really, they're so versatile, and so I did this one in two different ones. This one's distressed, as you can see, and then this one is in black and white, which this is going to be able to go with so many things, being that it's black and white. And then these two are probably my absolute favorite. It's a diagonal stripe. It's got some writing, some distressing, more distressing on top. And this one's blue with red. And then this one is a red with like a darker red on it. But I absolutely adore these. Now for the ephemera, which is probably my favorite part, and maybe yours as well. Now, I do have to say that your copy will not have this green background. I had already printed it when I realized I did not want that, and so it'll be just white on the background. But I put in some words that were, fitting for the season. So you have harvest, foliage, bonfire, cider, orchard, pumpkin, gourds, acorn, maple. There's just so many fun words. Here's some phrases here. You have evening glow, nostalgia in the air, autumn evenings, harvest memories, warm wind whispers. I'm so excited for this time of year to come this year. This is when I'm really missing Michigan and the Michigan fall that I was able to experience. That was so beautiful, with the cider donuts and the mills that would open up with the fudge, and it was just, you just felt it was a different time. It was just wonderful to have seasons. Growing up in Florida, we didn't really have them, and I always joked with everyone in Michigan that I finally understood what pumpkin spice was all about, because in Florida it kind of goes by the wayside. On this one has some vintage images that I have recolored. These I hand drew, and they're just an ace of diamonds and of hearts. And I think these are so cute. They're going to go so great with those background papers. Again, these are more images of or vintage images, and you're going to see I gave you the full size images, and I want to use as much of the paper as I can when I'm printing. And so you notice that right here, like this is cut off and then this one starts. That way there's not a lot of wasted space. And the other really great thing that I've kept in mind when I am decorating or designing the printables is that I want one cut, and a lot of times I really try to get it where it's all lined up, so I can just, if I'm using a paper trimmer, I can just cut one cut, and it just makes it a lot easier to do that, especially when you have like squares and rectangles. The thing with my kits that the reason I started doing kits was, oh, and I forgot to tell you, hold on, I'll go back to that. I also do the miniatures because I love miniatures. So I've taken this and then I've squeezed it down to a really small size so that you can use this in your miniatures as well. And that's something that I love. But back to why I started doing digitals in the first place, and that is because when I was working with an album, a mini journal, or whatever project I was working on, I wanted to have every piece available. I wanted it to be all inclusive, that I didn't have to go outside of the kit to find anything. And so that's what I've done. That's why I have so many backgrounds, so many images, because this really is enough to make at least one journal, if not two journals. Plus, then you can reprint it and reprint it as much as you want. And it's just endless with what you can do with it. This again is going to be your larger sizes, and then these are the minis, and look how cute they are. I love all of these vintage pumpkins and gourds, and the colors are just so beautiful. Here are some other vintage images that I have here. We have the full size here as well as the minis here. And I really just kept in mind of what would layer really well. And so, you can see here's my red little bug killer. And if I were just to put it here next to this, see how wonderful this just accentuates. You can layer them in so many different ways, and I think there's so many possibilities in this kit. I'm really excited. I know some of you that don't know Patreon are like, hey, we want some kits too, and so finally I've been able to do it. It's been kind of hard for me to make kits because my hands are not working like they used to work, and so I have to take breaks and stuff in between. So, but we're going to just thank God, praise Him for all that He's done, and that we're here today and we have a kit. So here are more vintage images. I did include some bugs here. Now this one is a little different. So these are the images here, and then these are some of the images. So here's the full size, here's the mini, here's the full size, here's the mini. And then on the background, I went ahead and, because I had this leftover space, I went ahead and put this as a background, so you can use that little strip for layering. I have some tags here that I handmade, and I'm really excited to start using these. And then this is probably the thing that I am the most happy with, and a lot of you haven't gotten a ton of my hand-drawn stuff because it goes mostly to Patreon, but I wanted to include it. And so you have some like little rain boots and mittens, a tote bag, which I'm obsessed with tote bags, always have been, some bows, another obsession, a pumpkin, a little, I think this is like a little felt heart and it says love on it, a little apple, this little duckling, and some Earl Grey tea, of course, and then some holly berries. And these are all just hand drawn. I think that they're whimsical. I think that the whimsiness of the hand drawn items paired with some of the vintage images, just they kind of go hand in hand. They balance off of each other, and I've said this before, I love combining like the sweet with grungy, and I think that they just complement each other so well. And then lastly, I have some hand painted or hand drawn foliage, and I thought these would be really great whether you leave a border or you cut right up to it, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. But these are, it's kind of like a really dark olive green, I would say. This is a plum color, and then the plum color, I also did it where you have it on a tan background in case you want to keep that like if you want to do a border around it and want to have this background. Now, if you are printing and you know that you're not going to use all of these, just print one of them. Just so, pick which one is your favorite and print that one. And so that is going to be the kit. It's called Vintage Harvest, and I'm so excited about it. And then I'm going to show you the Patreon kit. So this will be available on Patreon. So I have more of this checkerboard, which I love. I also have this like green, it's got some florals in it, some writing, some grungy. These are very, very grungy. This is definitely outside of my, I don't want to say comfort zone, because I do have some grungy stuff, but this is definitely pushing those barriers. I love this one. You can kind of see some writing in the background, and I think these are going to make amazing backdrop papers. This is another one of my favorites. I just love the diagonals, but I just love all of everything that's going on, all of the grungy, all of the peeking through of the paper, like this little thing with a 7 and a 22. I love all of those little details that you can just get lost in. This is another one, so this is a little lighter, and then also it has a different backdrop, so you don't have the stripes here. And I have two of these. This one is more like a gold color, and this is more of a brown. And then, of course, like I said, I love the diagonals. So this one is a dark blue with red. It kind of, I'm going to show you the difference in the colors. You can see this one is a lot more brighter. This one is definitely darker. It's reminiscent of the postal stuff, like the vintage postal stuff with the red and blue. Ever since 4th of July, I've really just loved that so much. Here again, this one is that kind of goldish brown color with the blue, and I just love it. You can pick any part of this paper and it would just be amazing backdrop. Here are the numbers, and I've also layered them in the same fashion, and this is like a gold brown on the bottom and with the blue on top, and I think that just makes it pop. Here's some more color or numbers, and this one is on a dark blue with the numbers being like a tan color, and again some grungy, some letters, some numbers tucked in there. And then I have the last two are wallpapers, and that I've manipulated, and I started with a base and then made it into this this creation, and I have it in the blue as well as the green. Which one's your favorite? I don't know, I think the blue might be my favorite. Look at these together. I adore these. And remember, these are available on Patreon. I'll have a QR code here to the left for Patreon. And if you don't know anything about Patreon, which I didn't before I started, so, we were in the same boat. Patreon is, and I still don't even know like fully, but it's a place where you can support artists. So not just me, but there's hundreds and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands people on there that you can support. And I only have one tier at the moment. The accident kind of derailed everything that I had. I was going to open up more tiers, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. But for now, you can go in and you can get printables. And so it's a cancel at any time. It's $5 a month, and you get not just this printable, but other printables. So it's really a great deal. And if you love printables, it might be something for you to check out. So I'll have it there. When you sign up for Patreon, you sign up automatically for the free version. And then to get access to the membership, I guess, is what it's called, then you just click on it, and then that's where it's the paid option. So these are some vintage images, and I love these. I can't wait to start playing with them. I love circles too. I think that they break up the monotony of squares and rectangles, which I tend to use a lot of. And so these paired together, and then imagine, so you have, let's go here. Let's say you buy this kit plus you're on Patreon. So let's say you have this selected seeds, and then you layer maybe this gourd right here, and then that maybe behind it. You're already seeing like the clusters are coming to life right before your eyes with very little work. And that's kind of, again, why I wanted to do printables in the first place. I wanted it to be a one-stop shop where everything was available and I could layer to my heart's content and not feel like I was never going to be able to purchase this piece again because it was going to get discontinued, or it was going to be, you know, a new model. And so that's my love of printables. Sorry, that was loud. These are some beautiful motifs that I have distressed and recolored and grunged up, and I love these. Again, these are really great for layering some more foliage, which goes kind of with my hand-drawn foliage. On this one for Patreon, so you saw a similar, and it's just recolored in a different color scheme. So it's the same images, but they are colored differently. Like even these were orange there, here they're green and yellow. And then this one is brand new to Patreon. So I did these book page ladies, and I had done these before, or different ones, not these images, but different images on a past kit last year. And if I recall, I'll list it down below, but I loved using it. It's actually the screensaver on my phone because I just enjoyed them so much. So I have, you can see these images. They're like the bigger ones are these images, and then I've shrunk them so that you can use them small. So like here's the image, and then here's the little teeny one. You can see the difference in size, and I can't wait to play with these. These are so much fun. I also included another hand-drawn foliage, and this one is in that like kind of goldish brown color. Then here are some book pages that, again, I have distorted and recolored. And then it's the images small. And I also have these little play money, little tiny, this one's small. And then look at how tiny these are. I think those are going to be a lot of fun to play with. But whether you are on Patreon or you are on, you know, you get the other kit, or if you have both, there's just so much variety and so much possibility for creation. And I don't want to say that it's all done for you, but it kind of is there. All of the pieces coordinate with one another, and even both of these kits coordinate with one another. So you can pick and pull, and you can make so many things. And make sure that you are watching out, because I'm going to have a lot of projects using these kits. So I hope that you love them as much as I have enjoyed making them, and I can't wait to hear all of your thoughts. Let's go to these florals. I'm going to take this on, and maybe I'll work with this one instead, because that way you can see the white, or you know, it's going to be tan. But I'm going to start off with, let's start off with this one since it's got thicker leaves. So what I'm going to do first is cut around and get rid of any of that excess space. Now that could be a look too. If you like that, you could leave it just like that. Now on this one, I'm going to show you how to do it without leaving a white space around it. So I'm going to again figure out where my blade is, and I'm holding it kind of at an angle so that I can see where my blade is going to lay, and I'm just going to follow the line. all the way down. Okay, you can see here that I've gone into the flower, and sometimes I like to do that too, that way it, because I don't ink a lot, and so that is sometimes helpful to do. And then if you saw that, I went a V shape, and then I went back through this way and cut that out. So there's my little V there. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing with the leaves. So I'm going to go in right here. And then here, I want to slow down there because now you can see that I barely have any real estate here to cut out. But I'm going to show you, we're going to do it and it's going to look gorgeous. So we just got as close to that edge as possible. And then instead of coming around and doing it like that, which you can, sometimes I like to just come from the outside and then knead it. And usually when I'm working with something that is really fine, that's how I like to come in. So I go in right here and then back around that way. And I meet that point. That way I'm not cutting any pieces off that I don't want to. Now, something like florals, especially something like this that is going to have that really thin stem, you're going to want to take your time. Enjoy the process. Now, these are this one less so, but this one got really close. I can see here I cut into it on accident. Whereas this one, I left a tiny little space there of the tan color, and so it's going to give me more stability. So if you wanted to do that, so for example right here, instead of cutting all the way to the edge, I'm going to leave a little piece of that, and I'm going to show you here. And I'm not leaving a ton. I'm leaving a very small amount of it, and so it's just going to allow that leaf to hang on. Now, the other thing is, once I turn to go to this side, I can come up this way or I can go down this way. I think I'm going to start like this because it's easier for me to hold more paper because I'm right-handed, so I can hold this better on my left-hand side. And I'm going to go down, do the same thing. And on this side, now I want to be super duper 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 careful because I don't want to cut that little stem. You can see it's teeny tiny. So we're going to go here. And I'm holding my breath while I'm cutting. And I want to make sure that I am not cutting any of the other leaves. Now here, normally I just go down, but I want to take the scissors back out and do a tiny snip right there. Hopefully that was enough. Not quite, so I need to go in just a little bit more. I feel like I'm getting so close to cutting this. It's getting to that time of day where I might need to turn the lights on. And so I keep, did I cut that extra piece? Okay, hold on. Let me fix this right here. Where is this attached to? There we go. Okay. Woo. And now you want to be really careful here because these are delicate little petals. Okay, again, we're going to lift our scissors and then do a fresh cut. Turn it. So I always feel like when I'm starting from the outside, I kind of can go a little faster. As I'm getting closer, I want to slow it down. I used to avoid fussy cutting. Okay, now on this one, I'm going to show you a different way. So I've cut out the bottom of this leaf, and now I'm going to cut out the top, and then I'm going to turn it and go across. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to get to right here. I find that that little cut right there is where you normally, or I normally go wrong, and I accidentally cut through. So I want to get as close as possible without damaging the stem. And then I'm going to maneuver those scissors. Still a little stuck. So with foliage like that, I usually come in on one side, come in on the other side, going on the other side, and it's literally the tiniest little cuts. Look at how frail this is. But in your work, it's going to look so beautiful. And then we're going to do another one of these, and we're going to leave the, or a little bit of outline so that you can, oops. Okay, we're in the home stretch, and now this is very, very delicate. You can see here I have some of like extra of the tan, and I can go back in afterwards, or I can leave it. For my stems, so some of these stems go straight across, but you don't have to follow that. And I think on this one, I'm going to go a little diagonal. And that's another little tip. If you feel like, let's say this leaf should have a divot, make it your own and add a divot. So let's do that now. This is probably the hardest one. I should have showed you that at a different one. Yeah, actually, we'll go ahead and I'll show you that after. And now we have our leaf. Now I want to show you how almost magical this looks. Isn't that adorable? And you have a little cluster right there already done. Now I'm going to keep my leaves probably separated because I don't want them to bend. Some of these pieces are really frail and could come off, so I'll keep those separate. Now I'm going to show you, let's do this leaf because it's a little easier to do. So I'm just going through and I'm cutting out the excess around it. That just makes it easier. But on this one, I'm going to add some like little divots, like kind of a monstera plant, maybe. And I'm just going in and I'm adding some little, like cutting out some triangles here and there. I find that something else that's really important is the speed at which you're actually going up and down with your scissors. I find that when I am being looser or not as attentive to it is when I'm moving it faster. And if you want it to be if you want to be more deliberate, then be more deliberate with your scissors and go really slowly. And so you can see now we added these little divots and we gave it even more personality. with everything that I ever do, we are saying there's absolutely no rules. Anything that I'm showing you here is just a hack that I've come up with, or that I've come to do through the years. But if you do it differently, actually let us know in the comments if there's something that you do completely different, and maybe it can help others. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go faster because we have a pretty thick leaf here. And you can see here that it has like a little divot here, but I'm going to go and I'm going to change it just a little. I'm going to on this stem, I'm going to allow some of the tan. It takes off some of the pressure. And I'm going to loosely follow the shape without being caught up with following it exactly. And I find that with flowers, with foliage, with things like that, because they're organic, it allows you to play with them a little bit, and you don't have to be so cautious. Okay, I wanted to show you a couple of things. First of all, if you have these little cutouts and you rip one of them. So if I was cutting and I cut into the stem, I wanted to show you how I would fix it. And I'm going to show you two different ways. So I'm actually going to cut these. And let's see, on this one, let's cut the leaf. Now, you could do a couple things. You could leave this as is, or you can fix it the way that I'm going to show you. And this one, let's cut the stem. Okay. So before you start thinking that this is the end of the world, you can't do anything past this, I'm just going to grab some tape. And we're just going to use this distress tape that I made a few weeks ago. And like I said, we can do this one of two ways. If you don't have any distress tape, or you don't want to tape it this way, you can tape it with some regular tape on the back. But I'm going to cut just a little sliver. And I'm going to put it back into place. And I can just add some tape on it to glue it back together, or I could have it be part of the style. So I think that's going to stay because it's too small. So I'm going to grab and you're going to decide where you want your piece to be, so where it's going to live. In this case, I'm going to make a little cluster. But look how cute that already looks with just the little bit of tape on there. But let's say I want my cluster to be here. I can just take my tape. That was weird. That was like a helicopter. And I'm going to remove some of the tape, and I'm going to cut it kind of at an angle. And now I haven't lost any of the beauty of the beautiful fussy cutting that we did, the intricate work that we did, but now it looks like it's on purpose. Now, the other thing you can do is if you don't have vintage tape or you don't want to use vintage tape, and I am going to use the tape just because I already had it cut and I don't want to waste it. You could do a little bit of surgery and you can stick your leaf back on. Okay, I'm going to overlap it and I'm going to stick the tape over it to hold it into place. And I do want to make sure to burnish it. And then on the other side, you can still see some of the tape on the end. So I'm just going to go in and okay. And now you have your floral and it's perfect, it's dainty, it's beautiful, and you can start creating with it. Now, one thing that I forgot to also show you was I said I wanted to cut one of these out and leave the white space, or in this case, it's going to be the tan space around it. So I'm going to start off in the same way. I'm going to cut off some of the excess. And this really does make a huge difference. I don't know if it's mentally or just really just cutting down on the bulk helps, but I'm going to show you. Oh, and I'm going to do it actually with these honkin' scissors. These are those Tim Holtz. So just for size comparison, you can see here, these are huge scissors, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. I think I need to back you up. Okay. So I'm doing the same thing. Instead of cutting like this, I'm going slowly. I pick up, once I get to the end, I pick up my scissors. I readjust the paper. I want to go in a little closer. I readjust the paper, turn the paper over, do the same thing. So every time I change directions, I'm going to actually open my scissors, turn the paper, and then come down. And this is even with these huge scissors. Granted, I am leaving some space in between, but you can see it's still the same concept. So if you've heard that you can't fussy cut unless you have specialized scissors or something like that, don't listen. You can 100% work with what you have. We're almost halfway there. And make sure that you're staying to the end of the video because I have a little surprise for you. I think another tip that I'd add here is that if your hand is getting fatigued from the scissors, try having, if you have access to more than one pair of scissors, try switching them around. Sometimes that will help. And there you go. You have a beautiful cut, and I'm going to show you the difference between the two looks, but look at how beautiful these even layered on top of each other look. And so you can see it here layered with the thin cut, or the one that doesn't have any white space, and you can see how beautifully that just plays with one another. And it's not a cop out, it's definitely an artistic, stylish choice, and I think that it is completely beautiful. Another thing I wanted to show you is some of these, like for example this one, it has a square outline, so you can cut it just like this, or with your paper trimmer, or we can fussy cut it. And so for that, I'm just gonna go through, just quickly remove the excess. And you can always do this after the fact. Let's say I have this one cut out in my stash, but then I don't want that border, then I can cut it when I'm creating. And then we're just gonna go through. On this one, you're going to see that I am going to cut into the pumpkin quite a bit. Now this pumpkin has, as you can see, like these little squiggly things. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to pretend like those don't really exist. And now we have a little pumpkin. And I noticed that right here, I don't love that, even though I was following the lines. So I'm just going to take it off. And now you have your two little pumpkins, and how you want to cut it is completely up to you. You can do it either way. One more thing that I want to share with you, and then we'll call it a day, and that is I'm going to separate my items. So in this case, I mostly have ephemera, but let's say I wanted to separate the pieces that have no borders. Where are those? Where are those? Like these. I might want to separate those into different categories. I also would, another category that I would pull out would be anything with writing like this. And these all go together. And so I would pull them out like this and separate them in like ways, especially if I'm working on a journal. And if I am in the moment working on a journal, I'm not putting the pieces into my ephemera book. This allows me to build clusters really quickly because I can grab from each of the pieces. So I didn't cut out any of my, let's see, labels. So let's cut out a label really quickly. Let's just do this number. And sometimes with numbers like this, if they have extra space, maybe I'll cut a little piece off and leave one on, you know, just depending on what I'm looking for. But now I can build my clusters. So let's say I want this, and I actually love the idea of this being a circle. So I'm going to cut some of the excess off. And now let's layer that maybe on here. this go here, and let's do our little can right here. And now I can staple this like this, and I have a cluster already made. And then I can make these so easily, so when I'm creating, it really, like I said, it's almost done for me because I can pull the pieces apart and just pull from them of what I want. I think the main thing that I would do is keep the ones that are the items on their own separate. I would keep the letters and labels separate, and then all of the bigger pieces I would put together. And it doesn't have to be bigger pieces, but they're like just the square pieces. If you wanted to, you could put your minis separate too, because I think that would work. So for example, if I wanted to do this, and I want to layer those. And again, I can just staple that, it's ready to go. Then you could also, before you staple those, you can distress all of the pieces, and you have really great vintage, grungy, different clusters, pieces or of ephemera for clusters. And then imagine this layered behind a little bit of color for pop. And then you can keep embellishing. You can add some coffee staining, you can add inking, you can add paint splatters, the more grungy that you want. It's up to you. If you like it more simple, you can leave it like this and it's still beautiful. So I hope that this video has blessed you today. I hope that you got a lot of good ideas here, and that it mainly inspired you to go create something today. And I hope you enjoyed this style of video where I was with you creating at the same time. I used to do these all the time, but sometimes I say too much. So when I am doing voiceovers, it's a little easier for me to control that versus when I am in the motion of doing things. So either way, I hope you ignore those and you still got some good information, hacks, tips on fussy cutting, and that maybe you pulled out your copies of your printables and you did it alongside with me. I want to remind you today that you are beautiful, you are special, and your voice matters. It deserves to be heard. I love you. Until next time. Wait, that wasn't even a heart. Hold on. Here's my daughter's heart, or my heart. Love you. Bye.